special.
Woo!
There we go. There it is. It's recorded.
Amazing. Okay, guys. Well, okay. So, what we wanted to do was record this video for our Abe Parenting Beyond Parenting community. And I think Raven, I was actually chatting to you, and you said, "Oh, I would love to get on a call and chat to people about parenting." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, we should all do a video, and then we can post it onto our community." So, what better than to pick the most high-flying people that I know to talk about this, all parents. And I think the joy of this is that we are all parenting so differently, and that's good. It's all about being aligned. It doesn't matter what you do. It's all about being aligned. So I absolutely love that. So I'm so excited to speak to you guys and see, what do you do? So does anybody particularly want to get started? I can get started if you want to.
Do it.
So I was just thinking before, okay, because I haven't planned any of this. Literally, this is off the cuff. But I was just thinking about it 5 minutes before I logged in. And I think one of the biggest things for me is knowing that I'll talk about my daughter because she's nearly 10 now. And she is... obviously my baby is she's 9 months, so I'm going to stick with my daughter. But yeah, so my eldest, it's so tempting to kind of want to teach her all of these things, and when she talks about things, you want to kind of say, oh no, you know, look at it this way. But for me, one of the key things, and it's definitely work in progress for me, is to step back and know that she's on her own journey. She doesn't necessarily need me to, I don't need to teach her all of this. Actually, she knows it. And I need to give her that opportunity to step back and just to step into her own guidance system and, you know, do what she feels is right. And what I love the most is just how much, when you do just step back and hold that space for your children. I talk about this all the time, about how important it is to hold space for your children and their emotions, because you know, people always talk about their children having tantrums and this, that and the other, and as if it's a bad thing. But actually, all they need is somebody to be there and hold space for those emotions. And they go up that emotional scale so quickly, all on their own. You don't have to do anything. And it is so amazing to see, and it's a huge lesson. So yeah, so for me, the biggest thing, like I said, work in progress, step back. And, you know, it's the same for my husband. It's the same for everybody around me. You know, I'm not the laws of attraction police. Although we all have our moments where we'd like to be. So, yeah. So what do you think about that, guys?
Yeah, getting out of the way, I think, is the biggest thing. That's what you're saying, is just like allow them to be in that moment. And my daughter climbs up really fast. You know, I'm just like, I just leave her alone, really, and just wait till she's back aligned, and then I hang out with her. And really, I honestly don't have many moments where she's out of alignment. And I think it's because of that, you know? And I really look at it more like, you know, I remember talking to Wiola about this, Costa. So Wiola had private sessions with him and stuff. And I've brought up my daughter a couple of times where I feel really like 95% of the time, like there's like no contrast, no resistance, and it's just really easy flowing. But I notice like when I'm having a moment, like it could be easy to be like, she's in a moment, but then I realize it's me. Right? That like I've attracted this mirror from her to let me know I'm out of alignment. Like I remember sharing this with the Vibrational Mastery group of like, there was one day where she wanted to go to Michael's or something, a craft store. And I was trying to kind of fit a lot in. Like I knew Ian wanted my attention. I wanted some free time to like listen to my Sarah Landon or Abe Hicks, and Sammy wanted to go on this thing. And there was something else I needed to do for work. And I was trying to fit it all in. And we were getting ready to leave, and she was in the kitchen with me and said, "Hey Mom, can we also stop by McDonald's?" And I just like, I could already tell I was a little bit wobbly and kind of feeling a little urgent. And then when she said that, I was like, no. And I like snapped at her. And as soon as I snapped at her, I just caught myself, because like, if it ever reaches that point, like I know for sure it's me. And so I just said, "Sorry, give me a second. I just need to breathe." And I was able to stay in the same room with her and just take a few moments and recalibrate myself, rather than tell her like, "Quit demanding things," or "I'm already taking you to Michael's," would have been like the old me years ago. "I'm already doing this for you," or, "I'm busy." So I just chilled out and remembered, like, I can fit it all in. Time, like the whole time is just an illusion. Like I'm just chill out. It can all happen. And then we went on our day, and the rest of the day was super awesome. So really, if I'm ever noticing she's off, I'm always then looking at myself, am I off? And so part of it's giving her space to recalibrate if she needs to, but it's also giving my space to recalibrate, and only coming back together if I feel inspired. Not like, okay, I'm feeling better, let's get back to where we were. It's like, I'm feeling better, now what I want to do? Do I want to get back to her, or do something else, or what? So
yeah. Yes. And Gina, I want to just touch on that. I want to touch on that so just softly and lovely, because like the best, it's interesting because I'm not actually a physical mother. Obviously, we all know that. Like, I don't have physical children. However, I have like this legacy of being a mother in like a very spiritual way for so many beautiful little tiny humans along this planet that have come into my experience. And I know that I've drawn them to me to show me things, teach me things, and then also let me give them my wisdom and what I've learned in my life. And like what you just shared was like the perfect thing about how my favorite example of Esther's story ever is she's like, the best thing you can do for your child is actually be honest with them and say, "Hey, Mommy is in a bad moment right now. Yeah. I don't really feel so good.
I need a time out. I'm like, time out.
Yeah, I'm like, I need a time fucking out, like fucking time out, okay? I'm like, I want to love you, and I do, but I'm all like jacked up. So I'm going to go away for a moment, and then I'm going to come back. And when you actually go away and you get aligned, whether it's you meditate or you sleep, you take a nap, maybe you listen to a beautiful song, maybe you pull up a funny clip on YouTube and you watch a comedy skit, and you laugh. Whatever it takes for you to get back into that place of alignment. And then you go back into your child's experience and you say, look what I did. I actually felt out of alignment. I went to myself in a private room. I found my alignment, and then I came back to you, and now you can feel my energy is aligned. And that children are so responsive to that. Children are so attuned to that. They know what they're feeling, and they feel what we're giving them. And it's like, what a beautiful example. And Esther tells, I don't know if it's Esther or if it's Abraham. I get the two, obviously, they're all entwined. But
yeah,
anyway, that story of, going away and actually showing your child what it looks like, to take a moment and say, I need this moment for me. Do it, come back, show them the progress that you just achieved, and now look at the relationship growth between you and your child, because you took a moment to say, I have to care about how I feel. And it's important to me about how I feel, even if I'm your parent, even if you're more important to me than myself. Nope, I'm important. I'm going to take care of me so that I can take care of you. Oh, yeah, that just feels so good. And I feel like there's so much stigma around, oh, well, we shouldn't be so selfish. We shouldn't take the oxygen mask and put it on ourselves first. We shouldn't. We should always think of other people. And it's like, actually, no, because if you don't have yourself in alignment, if you don't have yourself full of air and oxygen and love and alignment first, you can't give it to your child. So it's just finding that flow. So I'm just going to end there and let someone else just, woo, jump on into that juiciness.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've found that, like, you know, in those times where I've kind of needed to kind of time out and reset myself, I'll let her know what I'm doing specifically to say, it's not you, it's me. Just give me a second to chill out. I even remember a couple of days ago where we had planned to go to Michael's. Michael's is our big destination. Michael's and McDonald's. Michael's, McDonald's, and Pasco's World Market. And sometimes just random driving. Yeah, right? So, but I remember, like, you know, I said, you know, I'm done with my last client at 4:30, so maybe we'll leave around 5. And I was done at 4:30, but then just doing some stuff here. And then she came down like, Mom, when are we leaving? And I said, pretty soon, but just give me like 15 minutes. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to calm my mind so I can just kind of reset myself, so then we can make sure we have a fabulous time. And that's the very extent that I ever tell her like what I'm doing. Because if I say, so this is what I'm doing, and give her too much detail, it turns into like I'm teaching her something, and she doesn't need to be taught anything. To me, that's a wonky, like as if she doesn't know already. Like she's really aware. And that's one of the things I really love about, so as you know, all of you know, I think Tracey knows too, Sammy, her dad and I divorced years ago. And her dad has a completely different household than mine. Like he is not all about alignment. And generally he listens to Fox News all day. And he's the kind of guy that screams at people in the car and flips them off and has racist things that he says sometimes when it gets really heated. And like when I started learning this, it was after Jay and I separated, and that used to really bother me, thinking that she's going to be at his house and he's going to be angry and depressed and mad and all this kind of stuff. But now I've completely, as years ago, learned to like celebrate that Sammy has this contrast. So she's got the biggest lesson in the world by seeing how Mom operates, and that she chills out and doesn't, as soon as she's noticed something bothers her, she just chills out and gets unbothered, and Dad stays really bothered, and what the difference is in their whole situation. And and she loves her dad, and she has a great time over there, but she gets to see it. She's learning all the lessons, and I give her the heads up of, I'm chilling out, I'm calming myself down. But beyond that, I don't really like teach her much. I don't think I use the word alignment or anything like that with her. We like celebrate, like, we're manifesting, like we just manifested and stuff. I don't say, let me tell you how we manifested it, because we wanted it and then we let it go. No, I don't go into that kind of detail. I figure like she picks that up. Yeah.
And she knows it already.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had a really fun experience with my kids. So I'm a single mom. I have 11-year-old twins and a 9-year-old.
Wow.
Have been split since the youngest was 3 months old. So basically their whole life had split parenting, and also the same kind of situation as you, Gina, where my ex is a very different human being, and her wife is an even more extraordinary different human being. And
diversity.
Yeah, a lot of diversity. And it's taking me some time to like let all of the details go of that, but I really have at this point. Yes, but even a long time ago, like first I learned like I can't control my ex and what happens at her house. So I let that all go, and I never did try to control, but I let some of it bother me through time. But now I have this like beautiful experience and appreciation that the kids get to see all of these different varieties of ways of living. And I've really come to peace that like, I'm okay if they pick her way.
Yeah.
Because that's part of their journey and process.
Discovery.
Even if it causes them shit in their life, then what a beautiful thing that will be that they'll get to work through. And I too, like, I'm very honest with my kids. Of course, we're all human, right? We snap at our children. We just do. It's fine. But the moment I snap, I catch myself and I just say, oh, I'm sorry. I'm really frustrated in my own emotions, and I allowed myself to let that come out onto you. I'm so sorry. I just need And I do tell them, I'm like, Mom needs to go take a timeout.
Yeah, totally, me too. I need a break.
I don't actually go anywhere. I just like take a mental timeout, I guess, really. Another really fun experience that I had with my daughter, she is like so wise beyond her years. She was really frustrated one day, and I was like, let's take some deep breaths, let's calm down. And she was like, Mom, I don't do that. And I got irritated with her. And then I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And then like 30 minutes later, I realized, oh, it's funny because so I grew up really religious, and my parents taught me all these things of how to pray and do all this stuff. And then through my life, I was like, well, that doesn't suit me. I'm happy for you to do it. Doesn't suit me. And then here I am now trying to teach my daughter
your way. Yeah.
And so I realized, and like 30 minutes or an hour later, I don't know, I went to her and I was like, honey, thank you for telling me that that's not what you do. It works for me, and I was trying to make it work for you, but I trust you to figure out.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful.
So good.
Stunning. Yeah, I will say like that's the other thing is like, again, like when she's upset, I just like don't interact. But there was one time I have to share because it was so special to me because she knows, especially now that she's from school from home and I'm working all day, she knows more about what I do and stuff. And there was one time where she did get really upset about a friend being really mean to her and saying some really nasty things or whatever. And I left her in her room alone, kind of deal with it. And then she asked me to come in and asked me to help her. And so I said, do you want me to use one of my NLP techniques on you? And she was like, yes. So it was the one time I got to do it on her, but she asked for it. She asked for my help. And so she laid there and I had her close her eyes and feel for where it is. And by the first thing, she like stopped crying and like settled down. I could see her just relax and breathe. And by the second movement, she got this big smile on her face. And we ended up not going through the whole process, but she was just like, thanks, Mom. So now it was like that one opportunity. Now she knows that's what it is, what it feels like, and that it's available. But I never have been bringing it up to her anytime. It's like she just knows, and she knows she can ask, and I'm there for her. But otherwise, she has her own way. But if she ever feels stuck, there's this other outlet too. So yeah.
That's so good. So my youngest son, so if you don't know this, Tracey, I'm a sound healer and I play crystal singing bowls.
Yeah, I know that.
My youngest son, sometimes he'll have like a belly ache or he can't sleep for whatever reason. And he'll come out to the living room and say, Mom, can you just play your bowls for me? And I'm like, sure. And, sometimes I'll put them on his body if his body is hurting or whatever. Yeah, like I definitely am not like, come listen to these bowls.
Yeah.
For you.
It's so funny. As you guys are talking, like, it's so interesting. I love the diversity here because I don't know, maybe I am like sharing it too much with her, but she eats it up. And maybe that's just, she likes it because there are times where she's like, I'm not in the mood or whatever, but she just kind of, she has all the lingo and she'll tell me like, hey Mom, you're out of alignment. Or she'll be like, Mom, you're going upstream right now.
Yeah.
So good. But she loved the Sarah books, and it's good for me to know that, there was a time where I kind of tried to teach her more, and then I was like, okay, this isn't working, like I should just let her, but she asks a lot about it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool, or she'll be like, tell me about this, or anyway.
Well, we'll talk about that is all of our kids are so different. Like Danny is like so not into the schooling stuff, and Sammy's so not into the schooling stuff.
Yeah.
My kids are like
super love it. Yes, they want to be in school, and like Sammy's like Desi, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so, like, there's just all varieties of children too.
Yes. Yeah.
What's cool is there's this Abraham workshop. For some reason, it keeps popping up into my feed. It's come up in the last literally 4 consecutive days. And this guy is this beautiful parent. And he's like, so Abraham, I need to ask you about my daughter. And she's like, okay. And he's like, my daughter has read all the storybooks, and I've blessed her and gifted her with all of that, you know, knowledge and information since she was a little girl, and she's like, you know, 9 or 10 years old or whatever. And so she's read all the Sarah books, and she's got this thing that she wanted to have happen at school. And she told me about it. She wrote it down, and it did not go the way that she thought it would go. And so she's like so disappointed. And the dad was the one, you know, obviously in the hot seat, and he's like, I don't want to feel sad, but I do. Like, I feel sad because she's now feeling like she read all the storybooks, she knows about Abraham, and like, it's not working out. And Abraham's like, but it is. It's working out exactly how she needs to see it. And that's the thing about our children. Like, I'm a child of 2 beautiful human parents that decided to divorce when I was 10 years old, and it was quite a scene. And I would not change one thing, because it showed me this diversity and this contrast and this abstract of what I didn't want and then what I did want, you know. And it's like, more and more, I think parents need to just embrace that whole thing about, like, there's no need for perfection. It's really just about showing your children opportunities. It's showing your children experiences where they can learn to gauge what they feel, what they want, what they need, what they feel. And this guy in the hot seat, it was so beautiful. I'm sure most of you have seen the workshop. I know you probably have. And he's like, my child was so devastated because, you know, it didn't work out. And Abraham's like, but it did. It worked out exactly right. And she actually challenged him. He's like, well, what do you mean? And Abraham said, well, why would you think that that wasn't the perfect unfolding? And he's like, because it wasn't what she wanted. And Abraham's like, let us remind you, things happen as they are supposed to happen through the universal forces, you know, and like, our children are more brilliant and bright and beautiful than we even sometimes realize. And so sometimes, like Gina said, let's just get out of the way and let them just feel into their experiences, their emotions. And instead of trying to say to them, this is what I went through, so this is what I should teach you. You should be warned about this. You should know about this. No. Let them just feel and be who they are. And I feel like that's probably one of the most brilliant messages that Abraham has given us, that I and Tracey are trying to kind of perpetuate, because it's just so easy and it's so beautiful and it's so fun and free-flowing. Like, our children are just these little delicious morsels that just want to experience and know their beauty and joy and power. Let us get out of the way and let them just flourish. And I know Tracey has something to say right now about this, so I'm going to just point to Tracey.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, absolutely. Like we said, that's the biggest thing for me, definitely, just to be out of the way. And, you know, I've got the same thing where, like you were saying, Raven, where Lauren just literally just calls me out on everything. And I love it. And everyone probably thinks I'm a bit crazy, but I do absolutely love it, because it just makes me like, stop it. You know, if I haven't picked it up, she picks it up, and you're like, oh. Yeah. And she knows, you know, it's never about her. It's always about me. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and
yeah,
I think the biggest thing that I've found that has worked for me is not judging what happens. Yeah. Not judging where I am, not judging anything that I do. So over the years, you know, I've spent time you know, you get annoyed, you lose your temper, and then you're kind of like, oh, I feel really bad, I wish I hadn't done that. And you and then, but over the last few years, and I've learned about Abraham, and I'm like, oh, actually, you know, it's all good, nothing's gone wrong. It's fine. And for me to actually stop and be okay with what's happened, it just makes it that's what stops it from happening over and over again. By having that panic and, you know, thinking about how, you know, I've done wrong and I'm so terrible that I did this, but actually just accepting that that's what's happened, no judgment, move on, and
no big deal.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. No big deal.
No big deal.
Yeah. So I just love that is just so huge for me, just not to judge myself for where I am generally, not just in parenting. But yeah, definitely when I have lost my patience, because like you say, Karen says, you know, we're not perfect, of course, you know, we're all out of alignment at times, and you know, we're not perfect, but that's okay. And I always think that parenting is one of the places where I feel most aligned. I'm kind of like so good with where I am and what I'm doing, and you know, and not being perfect. It actually all just kind of figures itself out anyway. So
that's so good. It's so good. I feel like Raven has something she wants to really say.
I was going to say that I've kind of narrowed it down to like 3 different areas where I notice that I get triggered anyway. And one is where I felt like where I feel like I'm sacrificing myself. I don't know what it is, but I'll actually get this visceral reaction of like, either I'm doing something that I don't really want to do, or I feel like I need to do it for her. Like she's requested it and I feel like, oh, I have to do this thing even though I don't want to. And so that's been very clarifying over the years of like just getting where I'm doing that less and less and less and less, where it has to be a win-win for both of us. It's got to be a win-win for both. Yeah. Like a match. That's definitely one area. Another one is where I get tripped up by what other people think, other parents, other, you know, even my own husband, or like, what's my family going to think about what I'm doing? So that's another area where, but what I notice is that when those things happen, when I either am noticing I'm off with sacrificing, or I'm noticing that I'm triggered by like what I think other people might think about my parenting or the way that I'm living my life. And then the third one, and then I'll get to that part. The third one is, rushing when I feel rushed for time, like that, which is interesting because Gina was mentioning that as an example. Like I feel cramped for time and there's not enough time for everything. Those are the 3 things that I've narrowed down. And it's like, when I can sense it when it's starting to happen, and it's like, okay, like chill out, like, and I've worked through it enough that it's like, okay, let me try and do something completely different, or just think completely different about how we might be able to work this to make, again, like a win-win, or maybe something else will work around time, or I just literally will cancel like whatever we were going to do. I'll just be like, I'm canceling, like, because
path of least resistance.
What was that?
Path of least resistance.
Exactly. I'm just like, cancel.
Path of least resistance.
But it's been helpful for me because those are the times where if they get enough momentum, then I do end up having like a, you know, this is about, and I'll get kind of onto her, or like get upset with her. And then I'm like, okay, no. So it's good to, and I love what you were just saying about not judging yourself, you know, not being calm with yourself. That's something that I feel like will be a lifelong journey for me. Of being gentle on myself and caring, you know. But I did want to mention one other thing that I feel like this is so in line with what you opened the discussion with, is just, and I feel like it's pretty much the same thing, but it's what I think about in my own mind, is like, I trust that she has her own inner being. Like she has her own inner being, and I don't have to be her inner being. And I feel like that's something that in a lot of the parenting books, even my favorite parenting book, Hand in Hand Parenting, they still are like, oh, your child fills themselves up with you and your energy and your connection. And it's like, no. Like they have their,
You don't want to be the source of that shit.
yeah, she's got her own connection.
No.
But I really, that has been my like